This is Let's Talk Football on the Sports Hacks, and I'm delighted to say we're joined once again by Daryl Geraghty, freelance football writer whose work appears in the 42 website, in the Irish Examiner, and on RTE, amongst others, and a regular in the press box at League of Ireland grounds across the country on Fridays, on Saturdays, and sometimes even Daryl on Sundays. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
A big weekend in the League of Ireland just gone. Another big weekend to come, Daryl. They all seem to be big weekends at this stage, but topical today, and the topic of the day we're going to talk about is VAR, because Shamrock Rovers fans, Bohemians fans will have had views on this after the two penalties at Tallaght Stadium on Friday. And topical because today the Championship clubs in England have voted against VAR. First of all, Daryl, what's your opinion on VAR and the impact it has had on professional football across Europe?
I'm not a fan, if I'm being honest. I find it hard to find anyone who really is now at this stage, just for so many reasons that have been spoken about over the years since its introduction. So, the fan going experience is destroyed. It takes all the emotion out of the game. You're just standing around waiting for ages for a decision, things like that. But you're trying to get someone's interpretation of the rules and make it that black and white across the board, which just doesn't work in football. It really doesn't. And not to be like all misty eyed, but anything that takes the game of football away from what you play yourself, it doesn't feel like the same sport to me. And I had that feeling since the start that if I'm not playing on a Sunday or going to watch matches, it's not the same sport really. And I think that's with uh, when COVID kicked in and then we actually got back to games and everyone got that urge to go back. I think the introduction of VAR around then, I think it pushed people towards what they would call quote unquote real football, to what resonates with them from when they grew up and fell in love with the game. So for me, it's the pros definitely don't outweigh the cons on this one.
It was interesting after the match on Friday because Rob Hennessy, and to be fair to him, he was on top of both penalties. They were right in front of him. The camera angles from Virgin Media's coverage didn't really, I think, give a definitive answer. And there's no guarantee that VAR cameras would have been able to give a definitive answer. But afterwards, Stephen Bradley, the Shamrock Rovers manager, they got the penalty just before half time, which Graham Burke got a second goal of the night. And what a game he had. But Stephen was very much of the opinion that VAR is not for football, never mind for the League of Ireland. Alan Reynolds didn't talk about it. I'm sure he might have had an opinion on that penalty. But then again, there was an opinion against the Bohemians penalty from Rovers fans, I'm sure. So it is very much divided opinion. We probably don't have the infrastructure in this country yet, I would suspect, Daryl, to have this debate anyway.
No, even like the likes of goal line technology makes sense. But again, it's a big expense, and I think one of the positives for not having the facilities is we're not subjected to this debate where do you want to vote it in or out, because I think we know that will be voted out. But so like the one decision for say the balls penalty, if that's given by VAR, is it really worth everything it takes away from the game then? And I think that's, again, like I said, that boosted the attendances and across the board, even the lower leagues. So I kind of glad we don't have that option.
You made a very interesting point as well, because this delay, you see players, they'll score a goal, the fans will go mad, the players will go mad, they all have a celebration, and then they have to stop and wait. And sometimes the referee gets called over to the sideline, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes the decision comes into his ear, he then has to go and explain it. It does take from the immediacy of celebrations.
It does, and like the Everton Liverpool game was a good example when Enjoy scored, and the announcer gave it the full beans that our first goal scorer in the Merseyside derby, and then it was chalked off, and it's just a deflation, and and then when Liverpool got their goal, it was just, and yeah, they scored. Yeah, so like it just,
and it was very soon afterwards, wasn't it, as well?
It was, yeah, it was. It was just, yeah, like it's really, it pops the bubble. It really does, of everything we want from football, is to score goals and the excitement. And like any sport, you can't have it right 100% all the time, and that's why we love it. That's why we debate it. That's why we have podcasts about it.
Exactly. That's why we're talking about it now. Exactly. To go back then to events on the pitch and the goals that did count, I mean, it was a very important win for Shamrock Rovers. But What particularly struck me in Tala on Friday night was the age profile of their squad because, Stephen Bradley has really given young players their chance. We teenagers, with Michael, Victor, Corey O'Sullivan. John O'Sullivan, who's only barely out of his teens, I thought was exceptional sitting in for Matt Healy in the centre of their midfield. So certainly that youth policy is paying off for Rovers, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I think like we spoke about before, I think a lot of others speak that Rovers haven't had to hit top gear yet, and they're just at the top, relatively comfortable. And with that young crop coming through, I think others looking at it might be thinking this could have been a transitional year for Rovers, and could we have hit them harder or gotten closer ourselves? I know there's still a long way to go in the season, but it's a hell of a crop of players that Stephen Bradley has together, and they're so talented. And then that leads into what Stephen always says about their business model is they look to sell one every year. Whereas if they can keep those together for a couple of years, it's scary for the rest of the league. So
They'll
see what
certainly won't have,
happens.
they won't have any problem selling it, I suspect, at the end of this season. Of course, some already, Victor especially, already committed to Arsenal. But again, it's a vote of confidence in Rovers that Arsenal have left him there and have allowed him to stay there. One guy who's not going to count as a youth policy, but Graham Burke, 2 goals. Damien Duff was absolutely raving about him on the Virgin Media clips afterwards, which appeared all over social media. But what an immense player he has been for Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, his talent is undoubted since he's a kid. From anyone that's seen him play, you can see why he got his move abroad, and sometimes just on a different level. He just makes things look so easy and casual, and he's clinical as well. With that, once he gets onto the left foot, you kind of expect to score more than miss. So, and yeah, I thought it was funny when Damien mentioned that on the coverage that he hated him and he wanted to
Mm.
choke because I've been at some of the games, I've seen their reactions to each other afterwards, and yeah, Borky just has that presence, doesn't he? Just and look, it's great having that and especially when you can back it up like he does. He's just magic, and we're lucky to have him in the league and get to
And,
see him
and
every week.
he's, we're talking about young players. He is only 32, so he's going to be around for a while yet.
Yeah.
Uh, Bohemians have their own young players. Dawson Devoy again, fantastic going forward, particularly. I mean, Damien Duff did suggest that there are question marks around some of his defending, but if he can play that well going forward, I think Alan Reynolds particularly will know get somebody in there to protect him, but just let him do his thing.
Yeah, exactly. Get him on the ball as much as he can. I think there's times when I've watched him and I said he maybe shouldn't be in the league. Really, is he a level above? And like I know teams will always be sniffing around talent like that. But yeah, to be able to do what he does, relatively unprotected in the midfield, and to try to do it all himself, it's just credit to Bowes and how he's developed over the years.
Mm.
Because when I first saw him coming through, I would have never seen him as a deep line midfielder or playing he's kind of number 10, battling with Ross Tierney for that position. But now he's just taking on
He's
the mantle and seems to grow 6 feet when he gets on the
and
pitch.
he's the boss as well. I mean, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. He's been mentioned as a contender for the Ireland squad for this training camp in Spain. There's only potentially in England. You're only looking at Championship and League One players who aren't involved in the playoffs because of the Premier League season is still ongoing. But it's not a coincidence that he's been mentioned as a contender for that squad.
No, definitely not. No, because like we were talking about with Graham Burke, they have this special skill set that not many other players have, and I think it would be silly not to even try him in that environment to see how he gets on with players at different level. It'd be a no-brainer for me because he's absolutely fantastic player. So, and the captain balls and like you said, take everything on his shoulders and lead the way he does by playing is it's a no-brainer. He has to be involved, I think.
And Alan Reynolds has said if he does get the call up, they will let him go, which again is great to see. A
Yeah.
couple of other games then at the weekend. You were in Talca, big game for both managers, but a particularly big result for Tiernan Lynch.
Yeah, it was. It was a massive game because all the talk before the game from the Derry media as well, and it was like a battle of who gets to keep their job almost between Joey and Tiernan. And it wasn't the greatest game in terms of quality, but I think that kind of added to the drama of the occasion of like, are they playing for their manager? Which one's going to come out on top? Is a draw, and he used to either. But yeah, Tiernan was really delighted to get over the line and praise the players. He put everything back on the players, and maybe what I didn't realise from speaking to the Derry media was there was such an apathy between the fans and Tiernan
Mm.
that the relationship has gone way beyond breaking point now. So I think they officially sold only 35 tickets for the Friday game, and you look down at the away section, it was barely even
35.
that. Yeah, it was the official
35.
number, and that was the
Wow.
number that they said to us. So even they mentioned one of the supporters buses that have gone everywhere for literally 6 years, whatever, since they're back from COVID. That was the first time in that long that they've cancelled that particular away bus and that fan
Wow.
group. So it seems to be not just one set of fans or one voice, it seems to be spread across. So I didn't know the relationship was gone that far beyond breaking point. I can understand the frustration with their ambitions, but yeah, it seems to be like if they had someone in place ready to go, I think it would have been done weeks ago by all accounts. So yeah, that was the big takeaway from that. And
Uh,
obviously pressure's off turning for a week.
for a week at least, and we'll come back to this in a second. They are going to move
Yeah,
into temporary headquarters for the next few weeks. But differing
yeah.
fortunes for the weekend. The two Loud teams, Drogheda losing at home to Pats, which puts Pats right back up on the tails, Rovers at the top. And Dundalk, the third in the table, late drama, 3 goals in the last 10 minutes as they beat Galway 2-1 at Oriel. But again, one of the stories of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it won't be long if they keep this form up where the stories then we'll be seeing in the newspapers and the sites will be European chasing Dundalk because at the moment they're flying. They have all the energy in the world. They just so organised. And what I love about them is I know they have experience through the team as well. They recruit really well. But they seem to be tight in terms of going forward and back. So there's never really major spaces. So when they do attack, they're all attacking 20 yards up instead of that divide of we'll sit and then. But yeah, they're really impressive. So yeah, I mean, don't know who's going to
Credit.
stop them.
Credit to Mr. Kilduff for that. Finally,
Absolutely.
in the games just played, Waterford 2-0 away to Sligo. Not looking good for them.
No, it isn't. Like that was a big game. Even though that early in the season, it was just to see where they are in terms of could they pull Sligo back to them and make it a relegation battle. But after seeing it, you worry for them. Where's the win gonna come? I don't know. I really don't. We kind of assumed a couple of weeks ago that it will be the bottom two. Will be the bottom two, Sligo Rovers and Waterford. But Sligo's two wins have pulled everyone down. And but like I said, Waterford, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
They
Let's
need,
have a big summer recruitment.
mm.
I can't really see it.
But they have goals in their team. They've good players up front. Parry Gammon being
Yeah.
the classic example, but it's
Yeah.
not working for them. So let's look ahead to the weekend to come. Derry against Shamrock Rovers in Celtic Park of all places. First time there's been a soccer match in the GA ground. I thought it was the first time ever, but thankfully I did my research. It's the first time in over 80 years. Simon
Wow.
Collins informed me when I had a look at the Derry Journal website today. So the first time in 80 years for a soccer match, 8,000 capacity. Novelty value alone would suggest there will be a lot of Derry City fans in Celtic Park on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd like to think so because with the bigger crowd and or bigger capacity, you need a good crowd to just for visuals alone to
Mm.
make the product look good. I know product's not the probably the best word to use, but that's what worried me was when I found out with that such apathy and people staying
Yeah.
away from the club that it should be a massive occasion. It should be a big celebration and they pack the place out, but it's almost like it's bad timing. Almost maybe if a new manager was there, give it a lift or a bounce. But that's my worry. It's just how it'll look the bigger stadium, and also they have major worries over the pitch. The pitch looks terrible.
Mm.
There's patches everywhere, and there's a J match again. I think last Saturday on it is so. I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Yeah,
It might help Derry. It might help them.
my Twitter feed had a few guys saying that this pitch isn't like, and the Brandywell is not my favorite pitch in the world, the
No.
plastic one by any stretch. So I'm delighted that at last they're doing work on it, and Phil Valgardi's obviously making a major contribution to that in terms of putting his
Yeah.
hand in his pocket. But you would hope it's a great occasion. It is a big match. Rovers,
Yeah.
big game for them going to Derry now.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, they could really put a marker down after having beaten the three Dublin clubs that you would expect to be challenging them to beat then Derry City, who again would have aspirations for the title. That would be a real serious kind of marker. I think of this is league's on. It's only going one way. Whereas you never know. Derry City, they can be awkward, and they have really good players. So, and maybe the pitch might be a leveler then if it is as bad as people are saying and pictures we're seeing. So,
Did
could be a
you did,
leveler.
did you pick up on Friday? Is there a chance of either James McLean or Michael Duffy or both featuring this weekend, do you think?
Duffy, they're not sure. James McLean should um, just get to one game. So, but Duffy, they're not sure. Like they said, I think it's a thigh injury, so it's just taking it day by day. But it's one of those things that kind of flares up as he trains, or so yeah, they're just managing
James,
that.
obviously James is back from suspension, but he had started on the bench in Sligo, then he played in Dundalk, so it's still a
He,
little bit touch and go with him, isn't it?
yeah, I think he for the occasion itself,
Mm.
he'd be mad not to use his experience. I guess I'm not mad on the the experiment of playing centre midfield, but
Well,
again, his
maybe.
experience could help.
Yeah,
Let's put it that
maybe
way.
maybe the fact that they won in Dublin means that the manager may have to leave the centre midfield alone and
Yeah,
move him somewhere else. We'll wait and see.
yeah.
Alan Reynolds, this isn't getting any easier for them. Daryl, we spoke about this
Oh
last
no.
week as well, but they now go to Inchicore and to play the team and Patrick Ledig that are second in the table and scoring goals again.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a really tough challenge. I think when we spoke the last time was Bowes had that tough week after Waterford and Sligo. But then I think playing teams like Shamrock Rovers and St. Pat's, where they're a bit more expansive, might give Bowes that opportunity then to use their quicker players up front. Whereas if they're going up against a back five and the space isn't there, the pace
Hmm.
is really snuffed out. So I think the impetus would be with Pats to go and continue the goal scoring, continue their form. So in a way, it might help us just say this is what we have to do. We're going to maybe try playing the break, but yeah, like the way it's going, like Bows really need to stop this and put in a performance and get 3 points from somewhere.
3 points,
So
yeah.
huge
And
pressure.
For Shells as well. I mean, they're back at home to draw. The old newsstand, if you like, was open last Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
How
it
was
was.
it?
Yeah, it was. I think when it opened, coincided with this kind of dip in form as well, and yeah, it was tough. Like you want the crowds to be there, you want the hop in Talga Park, and just the way it's going, I don't know. Like there's questions over Joey's position as well. It doesn't really seem to be like a happy environment where you're turning people away. But it does. It's massive though. You see on the cameras as well. Having it there just makes it feel like
Just
a
improves.
bit more of a stadium. Yeah, than just a
And
side, two sides. So
but you have to think they've got to beat Drogheda, don't they?
yeah, I think Drogheda could go level with them on points if they don't. So they're Shelbourne. It's almost unthinkable that from the start of the season that they'd be looking over the shoulder that way instead of up. Whereas yeah, they're right back. They're right in it now. If they don't beat them, then I dread to think what the
I
atmosphere
think
will be like.
I think it's a bit early in the season for squeaky bum time, but it's not far off it probably in all
Yeah,
essence. Two big
that's
games
it.
out west, of course. Galway against Waterford. We discussed Waterford already, and Sligo welcoming Dundalk to the showgrounds on Saturday. Galway against Waterford on Friday. You couldn't really see anything other than Galway beating Waterford, could you?
Not at the moment, no. And you expect always a reaction from like Caulfield's teams will always get a reaction, and you don't want to be in that dressing room for that week after you lose with Caulfield breathing down your neck. So expect a big reaction anyway, and I just think they have too much. And if Stephen Walsh keeps doing overheads in the goal of season contenders, then yeah, they should have too much.
And Sligo, as you said, a couple of great results from them. They're on a roll, but they're up against a
There,
very informed Dundalk side.
that's it. Yeah, that one's it's so hard to call because, like we said, Sligo pulled everyone back down to them, and it's great to keep that excitement going. Like obviously having recruitment with John Russell is big, and it seems like he has to restart every year, and it kind of takes them a while to get going. Maybe they're getting going a bit earlier with those recent results, but they're a lovely side to watch. But yeah, Dundalk are just they just mean business every game. It's like it's no distractions for them. It's the same settled side as well. So that one's really hard to call, but it's be one of my probably games of the weekend to watch. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
we're saying no to VAR, and we're saying
No, absolutely
we're
not.
saying we're saying there's going to be fireworks somewhere along the league this weekend. Certainly, the games and the matchups will suggest that there will be. We look forward to
Yeah.
seeing that experiment up at Celtic Park in Derry, not Celtic Park, as I heard one
Oh,
radio presenter who obviously is reading the news and then gets asked to read the sport as well. But it is Celtic Park in
that's
Derry, and we look forward to that live on Virgin Media on Friday. Garlic Garrity, as always, thank you for your time, and we will see you next week.
Thank you. Look forward to it. Thanks again.